The dragon enters the arena, Netanyahu's China Gambit and the global stakes. A spark in Jerusalem. Welcome to Roh'sCorner, where we cut through the noise to unpack the moments that could reshape our world. I'm your host, Roh, and today, we're diving into a press conference that exploded in Jerusalem, September 17, 2025. Picture this: Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, standing shoulder to shoulder with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, doesn't just talk policy, he drops a bombshell. He accuses China, yes, the nuclear-armed superpower, of funding anti-Israel propaganda and backing Hamas. His words? The dragon has entered the arena, and we see its claws everywhere. This wasn't diplomacy. This was a gauntlet thrown down, with the world watching. Was it a desperate deflection, or the spark for a global conflict? Stay with me, because what happened in Jerusalem might just change everything. Rubio's visit and a war-torn context. Let's set the scene. Marco Rubio, America's new Secretary of State under Trump's second term, landed in Israel this week for his first big foreign trip. The goal? Reaffirm that unshakable U.S.-Israel bond amid the raging Gaza war, now in its second year since Israel's conflict with Hamas started in October 2023. Israel's recent strike in Qatar, targeting Hamas leaders in a U.S. ally's backyard, had already sparked outrage. Tensions are sky-high, Hezbollah's flexing on the Lebanese border, Iran's looming, and the UN's debating Palestinian statehood. Netanyahu's at home fighting protests, legal battles, and a plummeting approval rating. This press conference with Rubio was supposed to be routine, a photo op, a handshake, some platitudes. But Bibi had other plans. He didn't just talk Gaza or hostages. He turned the stage into a global battlefield, pointing a finger at Beijing in a way no Israeli leader has before. Why? And why now? Let's unpack the moment that's got the world buzzing and social media on fire. The bombshell: Netanyahu names China. Picture Netanyahu at the podium, American and Israeli flags behind him, Rubio at his side. His voice is steady but sharp, eyes locked on the cameras. Hamas leaders can run, but they cannot hide, he says. We'll pursue them in Gaza, Qatar, Tehran, wherever they find sanctuary. Bold, but not new. Then comes the gut punch: China is behind the anti-Israel protests across Western capitals. They're coordinating, financing, arming our enemies. The dragon has entered the arena. Whoa! China, a global superpower, accused of orchestrating a global siege against Israel? He claims Beijing's using AI bots, its Belt and Road Initiative, and even shadowy intelligence to fund protests and back Hamas with what he called the Slaha weapons. No evidence was shown, no documents, no intel dumps. Just fiery words. Rubio? He doesn't flinch. He nods, stays silent, then says the U.S. takes foreign interference seriously, especially from state actors aiding terrorists. That's not a denial, it's a signal. This wasn't a slip. Naming China alongside Iran and Qatar, with America's top diplomat watching? That's deliberate. It's a line in the sand. But what's the play here? Let's dig in. Why China? Netanyahu's high-stakes strategy. Why would Netanyahu pick a fight with a superpower? Let's break it down. First, he's under fire. Israel's Gaza campaign has drawn global condemnation, think protests in London, UN resolutions, even allies like France pushing for Palestinian recognition. By blaming China, he flips the script: it's not Israel's actions fueling outrage, it's Beijing's propaganda machine. It's a classic deflection, and Bibi's a master at it. Second, he's got domestic woes. Protests rock Tel Aviv over his policies and legal battles. Accusing a big bad like China rallies Israelis around the flag, painting him as a defender against global threats. Third, he's playing to Rubio. Marco's a China hawk, think sanctions, TikTok bans. By linking Hamas to Beijing, Netanyahu locks in US support, especially from a Trump administration that's all in on Israel, from the Jerusalem embassy to Iran hawkery. But there's more. China's been cozying up to the Middle East, think Saudi deals, Iran trade, Belt and Road projects. Israel sees this as a threat, especially with Beijing's UN votes against it and state media blasting Gaza ops. Netanyahu's also tying China to Iran, Hamas's backer, framing them as an anti-Israel axis. Is there proof? Not yet. That the Slaha's weapons claim may be a mistranslation of support, lacks receipts. Social media users are skeptical, with some calling it Bibi's desperate pivot. But true or not, the accusation shifts the narrative. Israel's not just fighting Hamas, it's a frontline state against authoritarian giants. Risky? Absolutely. Brilliant? Maybe. Let's see how the world reacted. The social media firestorm, voices from the digital frontline. If you want the pulse of this moment, open social media. The platforms lit up after Netanyahu's speech. Pro-Israel accounts cheered, finally, someone calls out China's game. Others, like activist Jackson Hinkle, mocked it, Bibi's catching strays, dragging China into his mess. Some quipped Rubio's next move is spit-shining Netanyahu's shoes. Chinese state media, like Global Times, fired back, calling it slander to distract from Gaza. The split is stark, half see it as truth-telling, half as theater. One post nailed the fear, this could ignite a war, and Netanyahu's dialing Rubio and Graham for backup. The buzz amplifies the stakes, with memes and hot takes spreading faster than facts. Problem is, no one's seen evidence of China arming Hamas or funding protests. Beijing's vocal on Palestine, sure, but that's diplomacy, not terrorism. Social media chaos shows how one speech can spiral, with misinformation risks fanning the flames. It's not just a press conference anymore, it's a global Rorschach test. So, what happens if Israel acts on these claims? Buckle up, because the stakes are astronomical. Could this spark a global fire? Let's talk stakes. Some analysis called this a potential World War III trigger, and while that's dramatic, it's not crazy. Israel's got form, think airstrikes in Syria, covert ops in Dubai. If Netanyahu believes China's arming Hamas, he might greenlight cyber attacks or strikes on Chinese assets, say, a Belt and Road site in a third country. China's no Hamas, it's a nuclear power with Russia, Iran, and North Korea in its orbit. Beijing responds, maybe with sanctions or cyber ops. The US, tied to Israel, gets dragged in. Suddenly, it's not Gaza, it's a great power clash. Economically? Catastrophic. The US and China trade over $500 billion a year. A fight tank supply chains, spikes inflation, and dwarfs the 2008 crash. Billions suffer, not from bombs, but hunger and joblessness. Archduke analogy? Not there yet. We've got guardrails, US-China hotlines, UN sessions next week, Qatar's hostage talks. But here's the rub, Israel's unilateral streak and China's pride could turn defense into aggression. It's a security dilemma, each side's protection looks like a threat. Social media users are already gaming it out: if Israel hits a Chinese ship, we're done. It's not inevitable, but the Jenga tower's wobbling. Rubio silence? That's the US nodding along, and that's what makes this terrifying. Rubio's role: enabler or player? Marco Rubio's no bystander. He's a China hawk who's pushed sanctions and called Beijing a threat for years. Standing next to Netanyahu, his silence on the China accusation spoke volumes. He didn't push back, just nodded and said the US takes state actors aiding terrorists seriously. That's not neutral, it's alignment. The Trump administration's track record, moving the embassy to Jerusalem, max pressure on Iran, emboldens Bibi. Rubio's presence was strategic, signaling to China, we're watching. But it's a gamble. If Israel acts, the US could be pulled into a fight it didn't start. Social media users joke Rubio's Israel's wingman, but the reality's grim: his stance ties America's fate to Netanyahu's brinkmanship. Why not de-escalate? Maybe Rubio sees this as leverage against Beijing elsewhere: trade, Taiwan. Or maybe he's just riding the wave. Either way, his role makes this more than an Israeli power play, it's a US bet, too. A crumbling global order? This moment exposes a deeper rot. Netanyahu's accusations bypass the UN, international law, everything that keeps the world from chaos. If Israel targets Chinese assets, sovereignty's out the window. China's allies, Russia, Iran, might rally, splitting the globe into camps. Think 1930s protectionism, but with cyber attacks and economic blocs. Europe silent, hoping Washington cools things. Qatar and the UN are scrambling, but who's listening? This could fracture alliances, trigger cyber wars, or crash markets. It's not just Middle East geopolitics, it's the world order creaking. When leaders like Netanyahu issue ultimatums, not olive branches, momentum builds toward conflict. Social media posts capture the fear: we're sleepwalking into a new Cold War. The erosion's real, and without restraint, the cracks widen. Can we pull back? Is there a way out? Yes, but it's narrow. US-China hotlines exist for crises like this. The UN Security Council meets soon, expect heated talks. Qatar's mediating Gaza hostage deals, which could lower the temperature. Long term, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict has known fixes: 2 states, secure borders, shared Jerusalem. But that needs leaders choosing dialogue over defiance. Netanyahu's framing China as an enemy risks a spiral where everyone's defending their turf. China hasn't responded officially, but they won't stay quiet long. The world needs cooler heads, diplomats, not dragons. Listeners, this is where you come in: demand transparency, question claims, push for peace. Follow the UNGA next week, watch China's moves. We're not doomed yet, but the clock's ticking. The Dragon's Shadow. September 17th in Jerusalem wasn't just a press conference. It was a moment that could echo for decades. Netanyahu's China accusations, Rubio's silent nod, the world's stunned reaction, they're pieces of a puzzle that could spell peace or chaos. The dragon he named isn't just China, it's the specter of a world divided, where one spark could burn us all. Can it leave peacefully? That's up to Tel Aviv, Washington, Beijing. Stay woke, listeners. Check social media, read the reports, hold leaders accountable. Will Jerusalem 2025 be a footnote or a flashpoint? Join me next time as we track China's response and the UN scramble. Share this episode, drop your thoughts under comments, and let's keep the truth alive. This is Roh'sCorner, signing off.